Did it, Joe?
All
I
right,
pulled
now
up
we're
our
going to do
outline in the
Project
meantime.
2025.
We are, and I pulled up our outline in the meantime,
Good. I'm ready with
because
that.
we want to go in a good order that'll make sense. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm gonna guide us through in terms of like the sections.
Yeah, you be the leader, I'll be the comment monitor.
Okay, good call. I thought it would be helpful to start with something called a note on project. Of course, now I've lost the right page because I'm in my Kindle because that's where I highlighted everything to prepare.
The book is called Democracy in Retrograde. You can get it anywhere if somebody wants to pin that as a comment.
How do you do that? I don't know how to. Okay.
Shannon will do it.
I'm going to start with a note on Project 2025, which is just a little bit of an intro on what it is. Okay, it says, "We want you." The 2025 Presidential Transition Project is the conservative movement's unified effort to be ready for the next conservative administration to govern at 12 o'clock noon, January 20th, 2025. Welcome to the mission. By opening this book, you are now part of it. Excuse me, I do not
The
consent.
mission. Welcome to the
I don't
mission.
consent. Okay, I don't
Where are
consent to
we
be part of
going?
it, but I am reading it as a journalist,
Yeah,
reporter,
we're
historian.
undercover brothers right now. We're undercover sisters. We're pretend consenting.
Indeed, one set of eyes reading these passages will be those of the 47th President of the United States. I highly doubt that.
Trauma. Somebody just needed to let these people be in the school play and we would not be here.
You're right. Do they think that this is that Donald Trump is the one reading? He's
He
not reading
doesn't
a thousand
read.
page document.
No.
Okay. And we hope every other reader will join in making the incoming administration a success. History teaches that a president's power to implement an agenda is at its apex during the administration's opening days. To execute requires a well conceived, coordinated, unified plan and a trained and committed cadre of personnel to implement it. In recent election cycles, presidential candidates normally begin transitioning planning in the late spring of election year or even after the party's nomination was secured. That is too late. The federal government's complexity and growth advance at a seemingly logarithmic rate every 4 years. For conservatives to have a fighting chance to take on the administrative state and reform our federal government, the work must start now. The entirety of this effort is to support the next conservative president, whoever he or she may be. Okay.
They were thinking
What
maybe
about
Nikki
they?
Haley was down.
They
Yeah, there's no
were.
they them presidents in the Republican
No, no,
in
no.
the Heritage Plan. No.
No, no, no. In the winter of 1980, the fledgling Heritage Foundation handed the president-elect Ronald Reagan the inaugural Mandate for Leadership. This collective work by conservative thought leaders and former government hands, most of whom were not part of Heritage, set out policy prescriptions, agency by agency, for the incoming president. The book literally put the conservative movement and Reagan on the same page, and the revolution that followed might never have been, save for this band of committed and volunteer activists. With this volume, we have gone back to the future and then some. None of that actually makes sense, but
Back to the Future with Ronald Reagan.
he was
Another
effective.
actor,
So
another
that's
actor who got a script.
right. Not great, but he was effective, which is scary. Okay.
Yes, literal Julian, they did admit to violating the 501c rules because they're not supposed to do this. You're totally right. Okay.
Yeah. People
Semi
are
continue.
allowed to call them. You can call the IRS to tell on them.
Oh my God. Osan, is this the English or the translation from German? You are a saucy minx. He's making a Nazi joke. Yeah.
Oh, I was like, wait, I was thinking like,
Was
oh,
this
Steve
in
Bannon
German?
has, I was thinking like, oh, Steve Bannon's running a nationalist movement in Europe. That's how deep in I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So
Here we
maybe
go.
I thought, no, this is written by Americans. And I know that because I read the whole list of fucking authors last night. Okay. Back to the note. It's not 1980. In 2023, the game has changed. The long march of cultural Marxism through our institutions has come to pass. The federal government is a behemoth, weaponized against American citizens and conservative values, with freedom and liberty under siege as never before. The task at hand is to reverse this tide and restore our republic to its original moorings. The task at hand to reverse to its original moorings is too great for any one conservative policy shop to spearhead. It requires the collective action of our movement. With the quickening approach of January 2025, we have 2 years and one chance to get it right. So they've been doing this for over a year. Project 2025 is more than 50 and growing of the nation's leading conservative organizations joining forces to prepare and seize the day. The axiom goes, personnel is policy. True. And we need a new generation of Americans to answer the call and come to serve. This book is functionally an invitation for you, the reader, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, and Miss Smith, to come to Washington or support those who can. Our goal is to assemble, what about Dr. Smith? Our goal is to assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained, and prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administrative state. The project is built on 4 pillars.
Okay, wait, stop there for a second. Shannon, you need to make Shannon a moderator on your side too, because I guess your comments are getting sassy. So
Yeah, what do they want to say? How do I do that?
Okay, so Shannon, how does she make you a moderator?
Shan, I see you. Hi.
So click on her picture and it
Yeah.
should say make moderator.
I see her. I don't see make moderator. Oh, yes, add moderator. Okay.
There you go.
Confirm. Manage. Can she manage guests? Yeah, she can.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to allow that. I'm going to follow her too. Okay,
She's the best.
great. Now we're friends. Okay. I don't know what the comment said, but like, fuck you. Whatever.
Okay.
This is the 4 pillars, and then we're almost done with the note. Then we only have like the 14 pages.
Keith Edwards is here, everybody.
forward.
Watch out. All right, here's the 4
Hello.
pillars.
This is the 4 pillars.
4
that we're
pillars of
doing
Project 2025.
Let's just tell everyone what to expect. We're doing the 4 pillars, which is the rest of this note. This is from the director. Then we're doing the whole preamble, 14 pages, and then we're going to do a little background on who the authors are. Okay,
Great.
so here are the 4 pillars. The project is built on 4 pillars. Pillar 1, this volume puts in one place a consensus view of how major federal agencies must be governed and where disagreement exists, brackets out these differences for the next president to choose a path. Pillar 2 is a person. So basically, they're going to say what the options are for policy and how they can go about it. Which terrible policy will they pick? Pillar 2 is a personnel database that allows candidates to build their own professional profiles and our coalition members to review and voice their recommendations. These recommendations will then be collated and shared with the president-elect's team, greatly streamlining the appointment process. Sharon McMahon wrote a whole long thing about this, about how they're creating like a conservative LinkedIn to basically make it easier for the federal agencies to hire loyalists. Okay, pillar 3.
That was the thing that JD Vance said he would definitely do, right? So there's like 50,000 employees. Is that right? Is that too many?
I'm not sure the exact number.
It's a big number. It's basically the entire employees of all of the federal agencies, like everything from like the administrators to the directors to the HR people. They want to get rid of all of those being professionals and make them loyalist jobs instead. 70,000.
Right, we will get to a long section about that. It's a lot of pages. 50K is about right, chronically Rara says. Okay. Pillar 3 is the Presidential Administration Academy, an online educational system, Trump University, taught by experts from our coalition. For the newcomer, this will explain how the government functions and how to function in government. Why would you do that when you have democracy in retrograde?
Well, this was the thing, right? Even with K through 12 and under schools, the idea of American patriotic education is to train people up to select this form of government and like indoctrinating young. So now they're going to have college programs where now when you go to school, you know, if you go for politics or government or whatever, you're learning a bunch of different things. You would only be learning American autocracy, I guess, whatever this would be.
Well, yes, this is a thing, and they have schools that are part of the authorship and like who are sponsors on the advisory board of Project 2025. So it makes sense, and they do have schools that they prefer to have people go to.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Liberty
Hilldale.
University,
Liberty's on it.
Hilldale, but
Those
then
are
also
all
the
on it.
homeschool schedule, the homeschool program, not real homeschoolers, not my homesteaders, my homeschoolers that I love you guys and you guys are awesome and you're doing exploratory learning with your kids. We're talking about the like deeply religious homeschoolers who use Michael Ferris's program. He's the Christian nationalist also involved here. Moving on.
Yeah, so this is still part of Pillar 3. Quick. For the experience, we will host in-person seminars for people who are experienced. We will host in-person seminars with advanced training and set the bar for what is expected of senior leadership. So they're working on succession planning and making this bigger. In Pillar 4, the playbook, we are forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of "so help me God." Okay.
Wait, what?
Like they're saying like they're forming agency teams so that they can like get right on the ground as soon as he takes the oath, was what they're saying.
Okay, that explains them buying up a bunch of townhouses that are near the White House. There's a new development. It's not new. It's been like the last 8 years or so of, these people got big money. They're like, Heritage Foundation type money or like Club for Growth money. They are buying up townhouses all near the Capitol and they're calling it Patriot Row. They have like they have an entire street now that's called Patriot Row.
We should look into that more.
Yeah. Maybe we can
soon.
Airbnb one and just check it out for you.
I don't want
sure.
that juju. No.
I'm sure we're there. I'm sure. Yeah. So anyway,
we should definitely look into
spooky.
that. I don't like that. But okay, we're almost there.
Okay.
As Americans living at the approach of our nation's 250th birthday, we have been given much. As conservatives, we are as much required to steward this precious heritage for the next generation. On behalf of our coalition partners, we thank you and invite you to come join with us at project2025.org. Paul Dans, director, project2025.org.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. Okay, so that's the welcome to this.
That's just the
Then
first
there's
couple
a
of pages, huh?
of all the authors. I don't want to go through reading that because it's just not as interesting as the actual content, but we can do a little bit on the authors after we get through the foreword, which I think is more important because they also list the contributors. So if you want to follow along and look at that, see if you recognize any names you might from many stories that you've read reported. So hold on, I'm still scrolling.
They're proud of this, though. I think that's the thing that we need to realize is this is not a secret. It was almost one of the best-selling books, except Sammy's book is one spot ahead of it on the Amazon list.
Or it was the other day. But
well, I'm just saying Democracy in Retrograde was
here.
beating Project 2025 for a period of time, and that's important. But this is the thing, they have everybody listed here that's on the advisory board, and it's not just people. It's like Alabama Policy Institute, Alliance Defending Freedom, who's the legal group that overturned Roe v. Wade, and the American Conservative, which is a news outlet, Center for Equal Opportunity, which sounds like it would be a liberal org, but it's not. You've got the Susan B. Anthony organization, right, which has nothing to do with women's suffrage. It's an anti-abortion group. 1792 Exchange. I'd love to know what the hell that is. The Texas Public Policy Foundation.
What about the Claremont Institute, which remember on American Fever Dream last week, we talked about how they're doing this homesteading project to try to build little happy towns.
Little freedom cities, yeah.
Not freedom cities as Donald Trump defines them, but these Christian-led towns across America.
Well, they have those, and Warren Jeffs used to lead them, and now he's in prison because it doesn't work that good. People think that they want a homogenous utopia, but they don't. Every time they've tried to do it, it doesn't work out. Waco, Texas was a homogenous utopia. Jamestown was. It doesn't work,
Yeah, homogenous
Gilead
utopias,
was.
They don't work because, people just keep having Gilead.
Right, wait, I
we
have
don't
to
need to
sit.
talk about Gilead. Okay, you readjust. Do you want to do
I'm
the
here.
forward? Promise for America. It's 14 pages. This is
my God.
this is the meat. This is the stuff. And then we can go through the table of contents because I think that is also enlightening to see what the different sections are. And then we can call it a night.
Do you know what's crazy is I was just reading the list of the names. I did not realize, y'all, and you can read this yourself at static.project2025.org, okay? Or just Google mandate for leadership. It'll come right up. It's full. These people put full bios for themselves. They consider this a legacy document. This is not a scare tactic. This is their version of the Declaration of Independence. They think that this is going to be Sam's book did sell out at Target, and we're very proud.
It's sold out a lot of places, but I think you can get it at Barnes & Noble and possibly Bookshop right now. So check it out.
Get it.
And also you can get it on Kindle, although hardcovers are apparently the only thing to count on the bestsellers list. And that's all that everyone cares about. But
You're a
really, I
bestseller
actually
to me.
want people to really, I think the book can really change the way people think about themselves. It's a more positive, more democratic Project 2025 for the people. Mm-hmm. For the people. Okay, should I go
Am I reading A Promise to America? Or no, you just did that.
I'm going to read it. No.
you read it.
I just
Okay.
read the note to open it.
my
Whatever.
God.
This is the
Y'all don't
foreword.
understand. I had to just scroll 12 pages of people who contributed to this. It's hundreds of people, and 140 of these people are Trump aides and former administration officials. So we're just telling you what it is.
Thank you to the people who are saying.
Wait, are you
definitely buy my
saying
book.
Project
Please,
20?
Thank you.
Hold on, you're saying Project 2020 has been debunked? Or what
No,
are you
who said
saying,
that?
sunflowers?
Where do you see that?
I don't
I
know.
mean, it can't be debunked. Like they wrote it. It's like right
They wrote
here.
it and
They
they're
wrote
very
it
proud of it.
with their full chest. Okay, if someone's following the PDF along with us, in case that's your thing,
Yeah.
I did love reading in class. Like that was my favorite thing. Page 34 is where we are.
And Miss Quintana, yes, we're going to just go through it straight right now, but we are going to break it up into subjects and then do lives on subjects like abortion, how it affects disabled people, how it'll affect the veteran and military community. And those will be special nights. We're going to be doing this.
It's
We
gonna
said
take
we're
us a
going to try to do it
while.
like two
As much
nights a
as we
week, as much
can.
as we
Yeah.
can. So, we're going to try to be here for you. But go ahead, Sammy, with
Yeah.
The Promise to America.
Oh, The Promise to America by Kevin D. Roberts, PhD. He is the guy who said that the revolution is already happening, the Second American Revolution, and it will be bloodless if the left allows it. He is the head of the Heritage Foundation. So that's this guy, Kevin Roberts, Kevin
Yeah.
D. Roberts. All right.
What do
Hit
you think
it.
the D stands for?
Dick.
Careful your language on the TikTok will shut us down. They will shut us right down. All right, here we go.
Richard.
Richard.
Kevin Richard Roberts. Okay. I feel like I have to sneeze. It'll come eventually. All right. 44 years ago, the United States and the conservative movement were in dire straits. Both had been betrayed by the Washington establishment and were uncertain whom to trust. Both were internally splintered and strategically adrift. Worse still, at that moment of acute vulnerability and division, we found ourselves besieged by existential adversaries, foreign and domestic. The late 1970s were by any measure a historic low for America, were they? And the political coalition dedicated to preserving its unique legacy of human flourishing and freedom. So much bullshit. Like, can they get a
Sammy,
better editor?
for being people who hate the intelligentsia and the elite, this is written by a man who went to Yale University. Also, Yale owes us a big apology for a lot of their graduates and Rory Gilmore.
Right. Well, they have Meryl Streep, so
Moving on.
that makes up. It's just like, can we stop with the flourishing language? Like Ernest Hemingway, you are not, sir.
No.
Okay, today, America and the conservative movement are enduring an era of division and danger akin to the late 1970s. Now as then, our political class has been discredited by wholesale dishonesty and corruption. I can agree with that. Now, look at America under the ruling and cultural elite today. Inflation is ravaging family budgets, drug overdose deaths continue to escalate, and children suffer the toxic normalization of transgenderism with drag queens and pornography invading their school libraries. Yes, that is
You guys are
RuPaul
obsessed with
invasion.
us. You are obsessed with us. Literally, you know what my mom said? My parents are regular people who have voted Republican. They don't anymore, but they used to, right? And she was like, why'd that Marjorie Taylor Greene woman get on TV and waste her 1 minute to make fun of trans kids? Don't those kids have enough troubles? They should leave them alone. I don't like that. And I'm like,
Real
see,
small
you're
government.
losing them. You're
Real
losing
small
them.
government, because people don't care what other people are doing. Look, it's like
No.
it sucks because they pull you in with inflation. Yeah, although
Yep.
it is improving. Drug overdose deaths, we
Hate
agree,
that.
bad. And then they go with the libraries are being ruined by RuPaul.
So
Okay,
stupid.
Overseas, a totalitarian communist dictatorship in Beijing is engaged in a strategic, cultural, and economic Cold War against America's interests, values, and people, all while globalist elites in Washington awaken only slowly to that growing threat. Moreover, low-income communities are drowning in addiction and government dependence. Contemporary elites have even repurposed the worst ingredients of 1970s radical chic, to build the totalitarian cult known today as the Great Awakening.
Who
And
calls
now,
it that? Nobody calls it that. That's
totalitarian
not
radical
a thing.
chic, democracy
Democracy in retrograde. Also, the Great Awakening, nobody calls it that. That's not a thing.
Maybe that was like the title of an Atlantic think piece once,
Who even
knows?
knows?
right? Okay, well, and now as then, the Republican Party seems to have little understanding about what to do. Most alarming of it all, the moral foundations of our society are in peril.
Perhaps because the people
'Cause
that
of you.
wish to be in charge are thrice divorced, convicted, libel, essay, bad people. Okay, moving
Totally.
on. Yeah,
Legally.
leave the kids out of it. You're exactly right. Leave children out of it. Let their parents deal with them. They can't vote. They don't have autonomy. Leave them alone. Like, it's too much.
Right. Yet students of history will note, notwithstanding all those challenges, the late
Wait.
1970s.
She says, Katie said, is the Great Awakening in the room with us?
Yeah, not here. Not here.
This is the best way to learn.
How
Okay,
do
go
you
ahead.
read the comments? Am I like missing them? Okay.
They're on my side mostly.
Oh, because I
so,
can only
yeah.
see mine. Okay, got it. Okay, cool. Where am I? Yet students of history will note that, notwithstanding all those challenges, the late 1970s proved to be the moment when the political right unified itself and the country and led the United States to historic political, economic, and global victories. And the AIDS crisis. I added that part. The Heritage Foundation is proud to have played a small but pivotal role in that story. It was in early 1979, amid stagflation, gas lines, and the Red Army's invasion of Afghanistan, the nadir of Jimmy Carter's days of melees, the Heritage Foundation launched the Mandate for Leadership Project. We brought together hundreds of conservative scholars and academics across the conservative movement. Together, the team created a 20-volume, 3,000-page governing handbook containing more than 2,000 conservative policies to reform the federal government and rescue the American people from Washington dysfunction.
From Jimmy Carter. We had to rescue people from the sweetest man who ever lived.
The gas lines were bad. Okay. It was a promise from the conservative movement to the country, confident, specific, and clear. Mandate for Leadership was published in January 1981, the same month Ronald Reagan was sworn into his presidency. By the end of that year, more than 60% of its recommendations had become policy, and Reagan was on his way to ending stagflation, reviving American confidence and prosperity, and winning the Cold War. The bad news today is that our political establishment and cultural elite have once again driven America toward decline. It was the Iraq War that drove America toward decline. Okay.
Did not support. 10 out of 10, don't recommend.
No. The good news is that we know the way out, even though the challenges today are not what they were in the 1970s. Conservatives should be confident that we can rescue our kids, reclaim our country, reclaim our culture, revive our economy, and defeat the anti-American left at home and abroad. We did it before and we will do it again. As Ronald Reagan put it, freedom is a fragile thing and it's never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation. That's true.
Totally agree.
But not
Full agree.
Yeah.
We just we disagree on what defending it means, but definitely agree. We are only ever one generation away from a totally different life. Yeah.
How did you get that added to you?
Oh, they're sending gifts.
Oh, do I
send Sammy follow Sammy so that Sammy can see your comments.
Things. I feel like
yeah,
I got
little things pop up,
but I didn't like. I'm very concentrated on the reading. Okay, this is the duty. The history.
Calypso, you are not joking. One generation away from environmental apocalypse. If we keep going this way, totally feel that.
Totally. This is especially with AI, which is like so environmentally problematic. We'll get into that another time. We have a Project 2025 to read. This is the duty history has put before us and the standard by which our generation of conservatives will be judged, and we should not want it any other way. The legacy of Mandate for Leadership, and indeed the entire Reagan Revolution, is that if conservatives want to save the country, we need a bold and courageous plan. This book is the first step in that plan, just the first step. Okay, this is called The Conservative Promise. Or that's actually just the name of the forward again.
Someone in here is asking, what's the Democrats Project 2025? Like, where's their document? And we don't have stuff like this, but I think that there is
the Build Back Better plan.
Yeah, we should. Yes, Sammy got the cowboy hat. It's my favorite one. That's a good one. I love that. Thank you, friends. We'll have to find. Biden said that he was publishing his second term, like what he'll do in his next first 100 days. So we'll find that. Oh my God. What is the Democrats' plan?
They described.
What is the Democrats' plan? It's called the Constitution.
Right. That's the difference, is that this is like not this is a policy plan, but it's actually not within the realm of what they can do. So it involves
restructuring the government and rewriting the Constitution. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, this is the Conservative Promise. This is the forward again. It was whatever. This volume, The Conservative Promise, is the opening salvo of the 2025 presidential transition projects launched by the Heritage Foundation and our many partners in April 2022. That's why it's upsetting that Biden's plan is in the mail. Okay? It's 30 chapters, lay out hundreds of clear and concrete policy recommendations for White House offices, cabinet departments, Congress and agencies, commissions, and boards. Just as important as the scope of the Conservative Promise's recommendations is the breadth of its authorship. This book is the product of more than 400 scholars and policy experts from across not this book, sorry, I'm tapping on it, but it's the book that
Project 2025, not Sammy's book.
This is two authors. From across the conservative movement around the country. Contributors include former elected officials, world-renowned economists, and veterans from 4 presidential administrations. This is an agenda prepared by and for conservatives who will be ready on day 1 of the next administration to save our country from the brink of disaster.
Not for Americans, not for everyone, only for conservatives.
And then, rich conservatives. It doesn't. You don't have to. It's not about your ideology. It's about your. I mean, it might be about. It's your aesthetic.
Oh wait, people don't know why yearbook is. They are confused if we're talking about yearbook or Project 2025. All right, put Sammy's book away for a minute. We'll bring it back.
Sorry, it's so confusing. That is not Project 2025. This is a. We could do this. This is a nicer book.
All right, we'll do yearbook next time. Yes.
Okay, but we have a lot. 900 pages to go. Okay, the Heritage Foundation is once again facilitating this work, but as our dozens of partners and hundreds of authors will attest, this book is the work of the entire conservative movement. As such, the authors express consensus recommendations already forged, especially along 4 broad fronts that will decide America's future. Key, these are the things they're going to fuck up. Listen here, this is the part you want to listen to. 1, restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. And you know that family means like looking like the way they want their family to look.
Patriarchal, yeah.
And also like your
Straight.
Embryos are alive. People,
Yes.
those are your babies. 2, dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people.
Unless you're trans or gay or a woman.
By restore governance to the American people, they mean to them.
Yeah.
And install loyalists to do all of their work. Okay. 3, defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats.
What does that mean?
It's like allow them to use the military for whatever means they need.
I don't think the military wants that. I don't think they like when they do that.
Hopefully they don't have a commander-in-chief who...
I don't think the military wants to be seeking bounty against global threats. I think we've tried that and it's really not worked out well, and I think we're good on that. I think we're doing really good with the new plan that we've had for a while, which is deterring war, at least, instead of us, I don't know.
To the best of our ability.
To the best of our, at least they say they're about deterrence more than imperialism, but we'll see. Okay.
Okay. 4, secure our God-given individual rights to live freely. What our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty.
Individual rights to live freely. Okay. Go
Except
ahead.
unless
you're gay or a woman or a child.
You don't want to live the way they want you to live freely.
Yep.
Okay. What makes these 4 pieces of the conservative promise so valuable to the next president is that they cut through superficial distractions and focus on the moral and foundational challenges. This was one of the secrets of conservative success in the Reagan era, one that our generation should emulate. As in the late 1970s, Americans today experience the failures of political and cultural elites in countless ways. In the job market and in the grocery store checkout lines, on the streets and in our schools, in the media and within our institutions. But in truth, these daily dysfunctions are not innumerable problems, but innumerable manifestations of a few core crises. True, but I bet we'll identify the different crises. In 1979, the threats we faced were the Soviet Union, the socialism of the 1970s liberals, and the predatory deviancy of cultural elites. Reagan defeated these beasts by ignoring their tentacles and striking instead at their hearts.
Who were the 1970s liberal socialists?
Like hippies.
They were doing drugs and minding their business.
The war on drugs.
Not threatening beasts.
War on drugs.
Oh, God.
They were breaking down the family, V.
Well, Gen X will say, that they were latchkey kids. So maybe the family was getting broken down in the 70s. Poor Gen X. They've been through it. They've been on their own since the get. They had to do a PSA to tell people to hug their children in the 70s. So maybe there were some issues, but it wasn't with the counterculture. It wasn't the counterculture. That was the straight culture. People weren't happy with it.
What about boomer culture that wanted? They're the ones who needed to hug their kids.
Well, they were having too much fun being yuppies in the 80s and getting cell phones and having a great time. If I could be any generation, right, I would pick to be a boomer. I think that they must have had a friggin' blast in the 80s. It must have been such a good time.
You're right.
Think about the fashion and everything. It just looks like it was so fun. The last time I remember being carefree. Well, I mean, if I could be, a white yuppie boomer, that would have been fun in the 80s, right?
Any decade. would
Any
be good if you're a
decade.
white
But
man.
the last time I remember life being easy was when I was a child in the 90s, right? So I feel like it wasn't that bad. I feel like it was good.
I think it's hard to know because we were like, we
We
don't
were
have any
children.
comparison.
That's true.
Okay, we're getting through this. This is about Reagan. His approach to the Cold War, we win and they lose. His economic agenda, the human dignity of work and its many rewards.
Okay.
His platform in the culture wars, the community of values embodied in these words: family, work, neighborhood, peace, and freedom. This book and Project 2025 as a whole will arm the next conservative president with the same kind of strategic clarity, but for a new age.
How did they not square that Reagan was part of the like golden age of Hollywood and played a drag queen in a movie called This Is Army and like was besties with Rock Hudson and stuff like?
Does it sound familiar?
Yes, he was. Yes.
Yeah.
So you know,
Like
they
The
just, I
Apprentice?
guess they just make it up. Oh my God, Carol, thank you for being here. Our boomer fan. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Boomers, I
No,
will say this,
boomers weren't
tend to
born in
really
the
like me.
80s. They were having fun in the 80s. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
No,
No,
boomer-
boomers were adults having fun in the 80s. That's what I'm saying. I wish I could
Right.
be.
Right. And their stocks were just starting to pick up steam, thanks
Yes.
to Ronald Reagan. Okay, we're going to go through the four promises. There's like there's sections within the foreword on the four promises. So we're at promise 1: restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. So they're going to go.
Protect our children from gun violence, the number one killer of children, or no, not that one. Something else.
Doubtful. I'll let you know, though. Here we go. The next conservative president must get to work pursuing the true priority of politics, the well-being of the American family. In many ways, the entire point of centralizing political power is to subvert the family. Its purpose is to replace people's natural loves and loyalties with unnatural ones. You see this in the popular left-wing aphorism. Government is simply the name we give to things we choose to do together.
What?
What? But in real life, most of the things people do together have nothing to do with the government. These are the mediating institutions that serve as the building blocks of any healthy society: marriage, work, school, family, church, volunteering.
Marriage, which
Wait,
is a civil
here's the thing.
commitment.
All of these things are political.
Right.
You go to work, you pay taxes to the government. The regulations in your job, the protections you have, the minimum wage.
School, federally funded.
Church, the church is tax exempt.
Tax exempt. Marriage.
It's a contract. It's meaningless if you just get religiously married. You have to actually get your license.
Yeah.
Your
Unless you're a
governmental-
sister wife, then we recognize your spiritual marriages. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. So the name real people give to the things we do together is community, not government. It's both. Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
Hold two things at once, Kevin Roberts.
Right?
Our lives, someone edited this. I can't believe it. Our lives are full of interwoven, overlapping communities, and our individual and collective happiness depends upon them. But the most important community in each of our lives and the life of the nation is the family. Today, the American family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers,
Do they
including
say
more than
oh my God,
70%
Sammy,
of Black
stop.
children.
They said that out loud. They said 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers in black and white print.
It's
That's
right
what
there,
it says. I'm reading it. I can't believe this.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. I'm going to turn my lights on.
There is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of a father. Well, isn't that the father's fault, not the government's? Okay. Fatherlessness is one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen suicide, substance abuse, rejection of the church, and high school dropouts. So many of the problems that government programs are designed to solve but can't are ultimately problems created by the crisis of marriage and family. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married parents. Also, kids used to die when they were like 5. Okay.
Well,
If
and
current
so did
trends
their husbands
continue-
in war. Like, who cares? That's what I don't think. I think that's crazy. Are to unmarried, 40% are to unmarried women. Like, okay, where's your man at? And like, also, who cares? That seems like their business.
Right, exactly. If current trends continue, we are heading towards social implosion.
Wait,
You're
what?
making us head towards social implosion.
A couple
We're
of
fine.
these comments are saying exactly this thing. My family flourished without a toxic man in my house. My mother this is the way it was. My dad died. What was she supposed to do? Not give birth to me? Like,
It's also like they're complaining about the falling apart of the family when it's like, it's not like these women are leaving their husbands. It's usually the fathers are who
Right.
and first of all, JD Vance is the one saying, oh, they should stay in these marriages. It's like they're it's the
It's
fathers.
crazy.
Okay. Furthermore, the next conservative, and also Donald Trump has been married 3 times and he cheated on all his wives, even when they were
And he never
pregnant.
changed a diaper. For all the 5 kids he has, he's very proud to say he never changed a diaper. That wasn't for, he didn't take them until they were old enough to listen to him and understand. He's like been really open about that.
I can't go on to him. Furthermore, the next conservative president must understand that using government alone to respond to symptoms of the family crisis is a dead end. Fair enough. Federal power must instead be wielded to reverse the crisis and rescue America's kids from familial breakdown. The conservative promise includes dozens of specific policies to accomplish this existential task. Some are obvious and long-standing goals, like eliminating marriage penalties in federal welfare programs and the tax code, and installing work requirements for food stamps. But we must go further. It's time for policymakers to elevate family authority, formation, and cohesion as their top priority, and even use government power, including through the tax code, to restore the American family. First of all, marriage is already incentivized through the tax code.
Let's talk about food stamps and the work requirement. As you know, I used to work in food security. It's something like 48% of, it's the majority of people who are on food stamps are white women with multiple children. So that sort of like blows apart this idea that it's like these other minorities are people coming across the border stealing our food stamps. No, it's not. And to be a single mom and meet the work requirement is impossible, because you'd either have to hope that your children are old enough that they're in school for a good part of the day and can go to an after school program, or you have to pay for daycare, which is also just not affordable. And it's not like there's a whole lineup of men somewhere who are like, I'm willing to step up. I'm sorry. I'd love to take you and your 3 kids in so that you can stay at home. Like they're living in like a fake world. Like, so what would they do then? They would take away your kids. There's 400,000 kids in foster care now, and reassign them to a Christian family. Like, this is nuts.
I mean, it doesn't really all track.
Yeah, Jamie, exactly. A single mom worked 3 jobs, still needed assistance, because the jobs you can get either don't line up with your kids' school, right? And you have to take care of your children. So you can't work a full-time 9 to 5 because you got to deal with it. And then you got to get all these like piecemeal jobs to try and make it work. And it's like, it's just not fair. And you still need support. Of course and you should have support, because you're out there, you had the kids, you're trying to bring new people into the world who are going to be contributing members of society. And like, I, as a person with no kids, love paying my taxes. I would love for you to get the help you need to continue to fulfill that role for society. Like, it's crazy.
And raise the minimum wage.
Yeah, raise the minimum wage and raise the amount of SNAP dollars, because it's not enough. Okay, moving on.
We got to get through this because I got to record at like 9:30, and we're on page 4.
We'll get as far as we get.
Okay, we're about to be on page 4. Okay. Today, the left is threatening the tax-exempt status of churches and charities that reject woke progressivism. I've never seen it. Yeah, okay. They will soon turn to Christian schools and clubs with the same totalitarian intent. Last time I checked, you guys aren't the ones with the problems.
We don't care.
You have Poppy. You don't have to make a cake for whoever you don't want to.
Nope.
Whatever. The next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors. This starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights out of every federal rule, agency regulation, contract, grant regulation, and federal piece of legislation that exists. Wait till you got here. Pornography manifested today in the omnipresent propagation.
They love pornography. They think about porn. We're on page 5. We've talked about pornography twice.
Never would have put this in my policy document.
No.
Pornography manifested today in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children, for instance, is not a political Gordian knot, inextricably binding up disparate claims about free speech, property rights, sexual liberation, and child welfare. It has no claim to First Amendment protection.
You keep hitting your microphone. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. It has no claim to First Amendment protection. Its purveyors are child predators, projection, and misogynistic exploiters of women. Their product is as addictive as any illicit drug and as psychologically destructive as any crime. Pornography should be
Admit it.
outlawed.
Good to admit that you guys are addicted to pornography.
Good
Clearly.
to admit that you're addicted to trans people.
Thinking
about
like,
them,
for real. They can't.
at
We're on
them.
page 5. We're already done this twice.
Had
Come
no
on.
clue that this is a screed. Educators, the people who produce and distribute it, should be imprisoned. Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed as registered sex offenders. And telecommunications and technology firms that facilitate its spread should be shuttered. In our schools, the question of parental authority over their children's education is a simple one. Schools serve parents, not the other way around. That is, of course, the best argument for universal school choice, a goal all conservatives and conservative presidents must pursue. But even before we achieve that long-term goal, parents' rights as their children's primary educator should be non-negotiable in American schools. States, cities, and counties, school boards, union bosses, principals, and teachers who disagree should be immediately cut off from federal funds.
Okay,
Noxious,
cool. We make them get a 5-year degree to be a teacher to make $48,000 a year, and now we're going to say no. We're here to serve. The customer is always right. The parents are always right. Then why make the teacher go to school?
Why even have facts?
Why have principals? Why have any hierarchy? Why have AP classes? Why have it?
They don't want to have it. That's the point. They don't want to have it.
You should just go to school. You should go to work, right? Yeah, you'll learn a trade.
Go to work, child labor, or go to our homeschool where we'll teach you 7 Bible verses and
I guess so.
Wear a skirt.
I mean, Jesus got to be a carpenter at least, I guess. I don't know. Maybe we'll learn something.
And a scholar. And what this really is just like a high-minded rehashing of culture war shit. Because listen to what's next. The noxious tenets of critical race theory and gender ideology should be excised from curricula in every public school in the country. These theories poison our children, who are being taught on the one hand to affirm that the color of their skin fundamentally determines their identity and even their moral status, while on the other, they're taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres in being human and consists in accepting the givenness of our nature as men or women. Oh, I guys see what they're trying to say. But whatever.
I don't. What are
they're trying to say that like your race is so important to your identity, but your gender is not even like fixed.
That's crazy.
I think that's what they're trying to say. Allowing parents or physicians to allowing parents or physicians to reassign the sex of a minor is child abuse and must end. For public institutions to use taxpayer dollars to declare the superiority or inferiority of certain races, sexes, and religions is a violation of that's what you're doing, is a violation of the Constitution and civil rights law and cannot be tolerated by any government anywhere in the country. But the pro-family promises expressed in this book and central to the next conservative president's agenda must go much further than the traditional narrow definition of family issues. Every threat to family stability must be confronted. This resolve should color each of our policies. Consider our approach to big tech. Failing. The worst of these companies.
Vance is a part of, in which Elon Musk is contributing $45 million a month to Trump, in which Peter Thiel is also placing everybody in the cabinet. They are owned by big tech, the technocracy.
Andreessen Horowitz is also now contributing to Trump. Yes, this resolve should color each of our policies. Consider our approach to big tech. The worst of these companies prey on children like drug dealers to get them addicted to their mobile apps. And also adults. Many Silicon Valley executives famously don't let their own kids have smartphones. Yes, we heard that before. They nevertheless make billions of dollars addicting other people's children to theirs. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms are specifically designed to create the digital dependencies that fuel mental illness and anxiety. It's more about fueling profit, not about making these kids sick on purpose. No. To fray children's bonds with their parents and siblings. Federal policy cannot allow this industrial-scale child abuse to continue. Finally, conservatives should gratefully celebrate the greatest pro-family win in a generation, overturning Roe v. Wade, a decision that for 5 decades made a mockery of our Constitution and facilitated the deaths of tens of millions of unborn children. But the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. Conservatives in the states and in Washington, including in the next conservative administration, should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America, including in your embryo freezers. I just added that part. In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously complying with statutory bans on the federal funding of an abortion. Conservatives should ardently pursue these pro-life and pro-family policies while recognizing the many women who find themselves in immensely difficult and often tragic situations and the heroism of every choice to become a mother. Alternative options to abortion, especially adoption, should receive federal and state support. In summary, the next president has a moral responsibility to lead the nation in restoring a culture of life in America again.
This is
Okay.
this is the fetal personhood thing.
Yeah.
That they want to have fetal personhood, which is something they tried to get Reagan to do also back then. Because if there's fetal personhood, then the woman's rights as a person come second to that little parasite.
The ball of
The fetal
something.
personhood thing is scary because they are willing, we say, oh yeah, then make child support from day one. They're like, okay.
They won't. Oh,
No, they say they will, or because they're not, because it wouldn't affect them, right? Because they're assuming that most of the people that are conservatives or like them would be in marriages from a young age anyway. So it's,
right.
The fact is, anybody rich who wants to get an abortion will always be able to.
Yes, maybe. I don't know. Well, I don't know.
You're
I don't
going
know
to
if
tell me
that's
that
true.
people who work in this little handmaid's swirl aren't going to be able to like stop things if they don't want to? I mean,
I don't want to say that that's necessary. I don't know.
so what are
I
we all
don't
going to
know.
be? I'm going to be a girl on the train to Kansas City. That's how my grandma used to describe it. She's like, I had to get married because I was a girl in trouble. I didn't know what that meant until like last year.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Like,
people,
what?
yeah.
It should be like, Aunt Dorothy had to take that train to Kansas City. And I'm like, what does that mean? I thought she was just talking old-timey language. Apparently this was like those were real things that people did.
Yeah, no, it's like, I don't think it's necessarily true that like anyone, it also depends what state you're in.
Yeah.
It's going to be messed up. Okay, we're on promise 2 of 4.
Yeah, oh,
This is
we're
about
almost there.
dismantling the administrative state.
And if people are wondering why Sammy is reading this and I am reacting, it's because I have dyslexia and a fear of reading out loud. So we appreciate Sammy for shouldering the burden for us.
I thrived when I was like in a reading group. This is like what I
This
was
is
made
ideal
for.
for me. This is ideal for me.
I also just like enjoyed the drama. Okay.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Dismantle. Promise number 2. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. Of course, the surest way to put the federal government back to work for the American people is to reduce its size and scope back to something resembling the original constitutional intent when there were like 17 people in the country. Conservatives desire a smaller government, not for its own sake, but for the sake of human flourishing. But the Washington establishment doesn't want a constitutionally limited government because it means they lose power and are held more accountable by the people who put them in power. I don't know if that's really true, but like restoring popular sovereignty, the task of reattaching the federal government's constitutional and democratic tethers calls to mind Ronald Reagan's observation that there are no easy answers, but there are simple answers. In the case of making the federal government smaller, more effective, and accountable, the simple answer is the Constitution itself. The surest proof of this is how strenuously and creatively generations of progressives and many Republican insiders have worked to cut themselves free from the strictures of the 1789 Constitution,
Yeah.
and subsequent amendments.
I
Consider
don't
the
think there
federal
should
budget.
be amendments. There should be no amendments. No women voting, no nothing, no amendments.
Amendments
Great.
get a little hairy. It worked when it was just the 10 guys and their wooden teeth that they stole from the slaves.
Yes.
Consider the federal
worst.
budget. Under current law, Congress is required to pass a budget and 12 issue-specific spending bills comporting with it every single year. The last time Congress did so was in 1996. Congress no longer meaningfully budgets, authorizes, or categorizes spending. Instead, party leaders negotiate one multi-trillion-dollar spending bill, several thousand pages long, and then vote on it before anyone literally has had a chance to read it. Debate time is restricted, amendments are prohibited, and all of this is backed up against a midnight deadline when the previous omnibus spending bill will run out and the federal government shuts down. Yeah, we know this is a problem. Why did the conservatives do this?
But it's a problem also because people in Congress just like kick around and make up dumb things and filibuster dumb stuff and pass dumb laws and spend a ton of time bothering us when they should just be like doing the very boring political actions that would keep this country running,
Progressives did not make this happen. They didn't. They haven't even been in office anyway. The process is not designed to empower 330 million American citizens and their elected representatives, but rather to empower the party elites secretly negotiating without any public scrutiny or oversight. We agree. In the end, congressional leaders' behavior and incentives here are no different from those of global elites insulating policy decisions over the climate, trade, public health, you name it, from the sovereignty of national electorates. Public scrutiny and democratic accountability make life harder for policymakers, so they skirt it, like you. It's not dysfunction, it's corruption. And despite its gaudy price tag, the federal budget is not even close to the worst example of this corruption. That distinction belongs to the administrative state, the dismantling of which must be a top priority for the next conservative president. The term administrative state refers to the policymaking work done by the bureaucracies of all the federal government's departments, agencies, and millions of employees. Under Article 1 of the Constitution, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. That is, federal law is enacted only by elected legislators in both houses of Congress. This exclusive authority was part of the framers' doctrine of separated powers. They not only split the federal government's legislative, executive, and judicial powers into different branches, they also gave each branch checks over the others. Under our Constitution, the legislative branch, Congress, is far and away the most powerful, and correspondingly,
they got rid of that. They were
like
not anymore.
Dead last. And correspondingly, the most accountable to the people. That's why they're last. In recent decades, members of the House and Senate discovered that if they give away that power to the Article 2 branch of the government, the president, they can also deny responsibility for its actions. So today in Washington, most policy is no longer set by Congress at all, but by the administrative state. Given the choice between being powerful but vulnerable or irrelevant but famous, most members of Congress have chosen the latter.
I'm going to tell you what, but whose fault was that? Ronald Reagan. He was the first celebrity president. And then we started, after that, allowing them to insider trade and make a bunch of money in the stock market. Then they wanted to get on TV and be famous because name recognition became more important than being like a local known helper person. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to me that Ted Cruz continues to get elected for how annoying and uncharming he is.
Like how bad his because Texas is deeply voter suppressed. But yeah, no, this is
Colin Allred coming for him.
Yes, vote for Colin Allred for Texas Senate over Ted Cruz. I can't believe Ted Cruz is up for re-election. It hits me like a ton of bricks every time. All right. Congress passes intentionally vague laws that delegate. Oh, here's the vague laws. This is Chevron deference. Now, remember, they wrote this before this legal precedent was set, but they've been going after this for a long time. They knew what their goal was. Yep. Congress passes intentionally vague laws that delegate decision-making over a given issue to a federal agency. That agency's bureaucrats, not just unelected but seemingly unfireable, then leap at the chance to fill the vacuum created by Congress's preening cowardice. These people really think that they're good writers. The federal government is growing larger and less constitutionally accountable, even to the president, every year. Now, that's not true, and I want to clarify what they mean here. So Congress writes laws like, hey, you have to provide a seat to your workers if they work more than 8 hours. Well, what's a seat? Is it a stool? Does it have to be ergonomic? Is there a price? What's a seat mean? Could it be a box kicked over? So instead of Congress knocking this back and forth all the time, it goes to the Department of Labor, which has thousands of people that work in it and say, we're identifying a stool as X. That is a nationally approved standard for the term. These federal unelected offices, they're calling them, are the 15 cabinets of the president. That's the executive branch. So what they're trying to do is say, oh, Congress is messing it all up. But what they're actually doing is diminishing the power of the president by saying that every single department in his cabinet, which he oversees and he appoints those people, and he's elected. So you're going to get him and his administration, or her and it's him so far. So it will be this time. So like him and his administration. So what they're doing instead is trying to move power from the executive branch to the congressional branch, but really to the judicial branch, because that's where they can have the most power. But yeah, the pretending like that it's just bureaucrats who are unelected. No, it's like it's like Anthony Fauci, which whether you like him or not, there's been other different people. The person who's the head of health is a doctor. The person who's the head of transportation has to understand transportation and engineering, like all of that. And they have huge agencies. Thousands of people. Yes, exactly, which is why they want to fire all of them. And they have these departments not just in D.C. They're nonpartisan, and they're not just in D.C. They have field offices all across the nation. Exactly. So these are the examples they give. Okay, I'm gonna say we should just finish 2 and then we'll do 3 and 4 tomorrow.
All right, we'll do 3 and 4 tomorrow. Fair.
Because also it's like I feel like we should do
Just like an hour at a time. Yeah.
more shorter. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Where are we? So this is what he describes as the president's Congress's loss of power. A combination of elected and unelected bureaucrats at the Environmental Protection Agency quietly strangles domestic energy production through difficult to understand rulemaking processes. Bureaucrats at the Department of Homeland Security, following the lead of a feckless administration, order border and immigration enforcement agencies to help migrants criminally enter our country with impunity.
Obviously not true.
That is just ridiculous. Like, say a lot of things. By the way, Donald's back at the convention. He has his fucking tampon on his
his panty liner ear.
On his ear. Yeah. Bureaucrats at the Department of Education inject racist, anti-American, ahistorical propaganda into America's classrooms. And by racist, they mean anti-white. They mean like slavery happened.
Right.
Bureaucrats at the Department of Justice force school district to undermine girls' sports and parents' rights to satisfy transgender extremists.
Who care? Y'all never cared about girls' sports. I played girls' sports for years. You never cared about girls' sports. You don't care about them now. Like this is the thing that bugs me though, because we want you to care about women's sports and fund it and protect it. We didn't want you to do it this way though. Let the one little trans kid who wants to make a friend. The fact that his government comes after them because they want to play a little sport. I played boys baseball and they were like, whatever, we don't care. Tuck your hair up under your hat. You're 8. No one cares.
Right? Like, what are the stakes of this? Like,
what's the point? Who cares?
It's just so stupid. Again, this is a culture war document that they tried to write like it's the Canterbury Tales.
And it's because they're trying to punish what they assume are liberal parents. But I'm going to tell you, most of the kids I know that are trans have what would be considered more conservative or Republican or normie parents. They're not super liberals.
It doesn't self-select to liberal parents. It's not like something you make your kid.
Right.
Like, as much as they want to believe it is. And the fact is that it's not like about, they don't care about if they alienate people. They want to create, their ideology is based in something else. It's not based in like logic or appealing to people. It's about creating an aesthetic and shutting out everyone else.
Also, I'm going to tell you what, on my cheerleading squad, there were some sturdy ass women on that squad that were bases.
You need them to do these
They were
triangle
big
poses.
girls, okay? They could have played on the boys' teams easily. We had, you know what I mean? Like my niece is like almost 6 feet tall. Like, don't feel bad for her. Feel bad for the other kids in her 8th grade class when she was almost 6 feet tall because she could dominate, right? They're like, and she's a biological female who oh my God, I can't believe I used their term. We're in the document. She's a girl who was born a girl who identifies as a girl and is 6 feet tall. So like, you can't, if you're going to do it. If they're not even coming at sports like the way they come at wrestling, where they say, okay, there's lightweight, featherweight, because somebody could get hurt. If a featherweight was wrestling a, heavyweight, that's understandable difference. It's not like they're saying, hey, let's just have all the sports be mixed. And we'll say you try out for junior varsity, varsity, and super varsity, right? And you're playing based on skill and size. They're not doing that.
It's about creating the world that they want to create, which is about marginalizing certain people and telling certain people what is okay and not okay. And it's that they don't care about creating trauma for people.
I always try to make it make sense. And the fact is it just doesn't make sense because cruelty is the point. So it doesn't matter. It's not going to make sense.
Cruelty and like, oh, fuck.
Oh, you can't say the F word on TikTok.
Oh, no, it says I have inactivity.
Oh, no,
I've
you're
been
fine.
here the whole time. Okay.
She's fine.
No fuck.
We're almost wrapping up.
Okay. War. Woke bureaucrats at the Pentagon forced troops to attend training seminars about white privilege. Oh, no,
they don't.
You learn something.
But they don't.
Whatever.
They teach you in the military, they teach you like how to collaborate with each other and how to like meet people where they're at, both socioeconomically, race-wise, gender-wise, because you have to. Because it doesn't matter when you're in a battalion, you're all the same.
Exactly. Last one of these. Bureaucrats at the State Department infuse U.S. foreign aid programs with woke extremism about intersectionality and abortion.
Look, I was at NATO all week. We didn't talk about abortion once.
Abortion's also an economic issue, but
it's not something that the Pentagon and the bureaucrats at the State Department, Anthony Blinken isn't running around talking about international abortion. It's not something They just always want to throw the word in when they want to get people on their side with something terrible.
It's a high-minded culture war screed. Okay, we're finishing this section.
We got
just
it.
a few more, another page and a half.
And then we'll be back tomorrow night too.
We could just do it anytime.
We'll just
we're like
do it.
free.
Yeah, we're around.
We just want to hop on and read Project 2025 to you. Unaccountable federal spending is the secret lifeblood of the Great Awakening. Nearly every power center held by the left is funded or supported one way or another through the bureaucracy by Congress. Colleges and okay, not to mention, don't you have all the churches with the tax exemption? Okay, colleges and school districts are funded by tax dollars. So are so many of your own things.
Yeah.
The administrative state holds 100% of its power at the sufferance of Congress, and its insulation from presidential discipline is an unconstitutional fairy tale spun by the Washington establishment to protect its turf. What about the presidential fitness test?
I mean, which still gives me nightmares.
Yeah, it was unfair.
They were like, you have to run a mile in under 10 minutes. I was like, no. Life, liberty,
Touch
and
your
pursuit
toes
of
in front of
happiness
everybody.
feels like
Do a pull-up.
touch your toes in front of everybody. My little scoliosis self. No. School was a constant embarrassment for me.
The presidential fitness test this is what happens when the administrative state overreaches.
Exactly. And that was created so that they could like draft you. Why are we still doing it? There's no draft. Yeah, the presidential fitness test. Really, it was originally just for the boys, and it was for drafting purposes.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. I thought it was like
No, they tried to make it. They
Michelle
rebranded
Obama
it.
Move it. Thing.
No. They tried to rebrand it, but they did. Yeah.
Okay, we hate that. Members of Congress shield themselves from constitutional accountability, often when the White House allows them to get away with it. Cultural institutions like public libraries and public health agencies are only as independent from public accountability as elected officials and voters permit. Yeah, so
Okay.
weird. Let's be clear.
We live in a society.
Right. Let's be clear. But also they do these things. So it's only when it's the way they like it. They don't like that the American people don't want it the way they like it because their way is shitty. And they want to control everyone else. They can live how they want to live, but just leave us alone. Let's be clear. The most egregious regulations promulgated by the current administration come from one place, the Oval Office. The president cannot hide behind the agencies, as his many executive orders make clear. His is the responsibility for the regulations that threaten American communities, schools, and families. A conservative president must move swiftly to do away with these vast abuses of presidential power and remove the career and political bureaucrats who fuel it. Properly considered, restoring fiscal limits and constitutional accountability to the federal government is a continuation of restoring national sovereignty to the American people. In foreign affairs, global strategy, federal budgeting, and policymaking, the same pattern emerges again and again. Ruling elites slash and terror restrictions and accountability placed on them. They centralize power up and away from the American people to supranational treaties and organizations, NATO, to left-wing experts, to sight unseen, all or nothing legislating, to the unelected career bureaucrats of the administrative state. As monolithic as the left's institutional power appears to be, it originates with appropriations from Congress and is made complete by a feckless president. This person writes, this reads like the one guy with the tiny mustache wrote in prison. I know, except it's like honestly so wordy. I never read that book, but Donald Trump has. A conservative president.
Oh my God, somebody just wrote, because reality has a left-wing bias.
I know. I've been saying that. I learned that in school where I was indoctrinated.
Yeah.
A conservative president must look to the legislative branch for decisive action. The administrative state is not going anywhere until Congress acts to retrieve its own power from bureaucrats and the White House. But in the meantime, there are many executive tools a courageous conservative president can use to handcuff the bureaucracy, push Congress to return to its constitutional responsibility, restore power over Washington to the American people, bring the administrative state to heel, and in the process defang and defund the woke culture warriors who have infiltrated every last institution in America, including this TikTok Live. The conservative promise lays out how to use, so the rest of this document lays out how to use many of these tools, including how to fire supposedly unfireable federal bureaucrats.
Like
how to shutter,
DeJoy, is he the liberal the guy who's ruining the post office?
If Biden were conservative, DeJoy would have been gone on January 21st.
Absolutely.
How to shutter wasteful and corrupt bureaus and offices. How to muzzle woke propaganda at every level of government. how to restore the American people's constitutional authority over the administrative state, and how to save untold taxpayer dollars in the process. Finally, the president can restore public confidence and accountability to our most important government function of all, national defense. The American people desire a military full of highly skilled servicemen and women who can protect the homeland and our interests overseas. The next conservative president must end the left's social experimentation with the military, restore war fighting as its sole mission, and set defeating the threat of the Chinese Communist Party as its highest priority. The next conservative president must possess the courage to relentlessly put the interests of the everyday American over the desires of the ruling elite, like Donald Trump will.
So they want to put the military. They want the military to do war. That I thought.
War fighting.
I thought we didn't want to do. I thought we wanted to do deterrence. But all right.
No, like they want military engagement rather.
What do they want to do? They want us to start a war with China. It sounds like that sounds terrible. Yeah.
They don't want you to like do like your nice soft power stuff. They want hard power. The outrage, their outrage, the left's outrage cannot be prevented. It must simply be ignored, and it can be. The left derives its power from the institutions they control because more people want those ideologies. But those institutions are only powerful to the extent that constitutional officers surrender their own legitimate authority to them. A president who refuses to do so and uses his or her office to reimpose constitutional authority over federal policymaking can begin to correct decades of corruption and remove thousands of bureaucrats from the positions of public trust they have so long abused.
There's a bunch of people. Thank you, Sammy, for reading that. There are so many people in here who are veterans or active duty military who are saying like, no, we don't want to do this. We don't want to get sent overseas to fight wars. We don't want to start a war with China. We like our new jobs where we're learning, great stuff and like leadership skills and like not, being deployed all over the place all the time. It's just not, we kind of like just got home, and I don't think that the left is like the warmongering ones. Oftentimes they inherit wars, and here's what I don't like about this document. It continues to say the left does this, the left does that. You're talking about at least 50% of the American public. About millions of people, that this whole document is saying we're going to have a president who won't be a president for all or work on compromise or recognizing that there's some middle ground we can strike on some things. They're like, nope, just about 150 million people, you're out. You're not included anymore. You're now slaves to the new conservative fascist state. And that is crazy to me to say out loud.
Yeah, and also everything they say is either like things that the government's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like they're criticizing the way the government's supposed to work, and they're basically saying like they're using the justification of all the problems that we have to seize power and saying that they're returning power to the people, which is essentially what populist autocrats do.
But this is the other thing I don't understand when they're like, well, we want it to be states' rights. I'm like, right, no, that's fine. Because that's the way it's set up, is that the states, sort of like are supposed to like fine tune what the federal says. Because of course, people are different in different areas. But we are the United States, though. We are a collective. We are one country. And so it's like there should be some stuff that we agree that your rights, all of your stuff is exactly the same if you live in Montana or New York, right? Your basics. But then when it comes to like how they get instituted, that's sure. Like the states should say how they get instituted because they have different things. If it's like you have freedom of clean air and water, right? Well, like how does that function? Like what different states have different needs when it comes to achieving that. But it doesn't mean that in New York, your water is better than your water in Jackson, Mississippi, because that state has decided that they don't want to do it. Like it shouldn't, though.
It shouldn't,
have like
but
states' rights, but you don't have a collective, united right is weird to me. I hate that.
Well, okay. So someone asked earlier in this live, like, why isn't there a left? Why don't the Democrats have an example of a version for this? And I think what that version would look like would be a social safety net. Because right. What I believe has led to so much of our dysfunction in so many different arenas is the fact that people do not have this guarantee that they will be okay if they get sick, if they lose their job, if their family, they lose their home, if something happens to them. People don't, and it's true, there will not be a social safety net to catch them. There will not be a guaranteed place they can go. And it's not, and the difference is that what Democrats should do if they were to lay out a plan like this would be to create that social safety net, because all this does is trying to attack all the little whack-a-mole things that Democrats try to do, like anti-discrimination laws and, good social
SNAP
policies,
money for
SNAP money and
families.
Social
Yeah.
Security. Like they're like, so they're always fighting like, well, I gotta save Medicare, I gotta save Social Security, I gotta save SNAP. It's like they should talk about it in terms of like, we have a social safety net. We need to have,
Right.
hell no, there isn't. We need a social safety net. That's what
Right.
their proposal should be. What this proposal is no social safety net, and you gotta look like us.
You got to be
And you gotta
authoritarian.
be Christian and follow everything we do, and you will not have freedoms.
It's just too hard to get 331 million people to behave in a homogenous way. It's not going to happen, which is why there's such tension in these plans and why it breaks down and devolves into violence, because you can't get 331 million people to do exactly the same thing peacefully and happily. It's just not going to work like that. And like Callisto is saying here, thank you, Callisto. Callisto, I hope I'm saying that right. It's not just doing away with the stuff that some folks might consider woke. Thomas wants to do away with OSHA, which has to do with workers' safety, workers' comp. Like if you get hurt on your job, I mean, these are all things that we have because we already know it will happen. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, the child labor issues, the Jungle Book and all that business.
The thing that's annoying is that they use like the oversteps of regulations, which of course there are
Yeah.
inefficient regulations
Yeah,
and
we hate 'em
annoying
too.
oversteps, and it's expensive. They use those very free and clear annoyances to smear the idea of regulations and government interference, when in reality, more of what the government is doing is ensuring that like a brick isn't going to fall on your head on the street, and that like when you get on an escalator, it's not going to like swallow you whole. Those are the things and that you got to have a weekend, and that, there's all these things that it seems like, oh, the government's so annoying, all this red tape. It's like, yeah, sometimes systems are not perfect, and all that red tape also comes with like some good things.
Consistency too. And someone was asking in here, me and Sammy have a show called American Fever Dream. You can listen to it for free everywhere. We do 2 episodes a week. Today's episode is out on Tuesdays. We're going to do another one I think we're going to try to film tomorrow, the history of security breaches upon presidents. I'm writing that now. Samantha asked
Let me
us
know
to do
a
it. So
time.
I know. So we're trying to just like, live in this space of the American fever dream we're in. Somebody was asking, are they really going to take over Hollywood and the entertainment and media? And yes, that is one of the tenets of the 7 mountains that Sammy talks about on the American Fever Dream show, which is to replace entertainment with their approved versions of entertainment. And we see that a good example of that is like Candace Cameron Bure was on the Hallmark Channel, which is decidedly pretty Christian, pretty normal, standard straight people stuff. It wasn't conservative enough for her, so she created an entire another network called the Great American Family Network. And on there's no gay, there's no interracial events, there's no the age discrepancies aren't there. It's a very, very like what
Why
they
not
would
just, like,
consider
watch
idealized
old
Hallmark.
shows?
Well, they consider
They
it an
want it
idealized Hallmark, and that they don't have to do any woke storylines. But it's like, okay, but I'm honestly so proud of Hallmark. Hallmark has rocked out.
They don't want to be exposed to anyone that's not like of their way, because they have that ideology, which I find abhorrent.
This is the
But
thing that would happen to me when I was younger, when people would be like, oh, well, if you're a lesbian, then I don't want you to meet my wife because she could fall in love with you and you could steal her away. I was like, I don't want your wife. I don't want your old lady.
Like, don't flatter yourself.
Don't flatter yourself. You're not my type. But they live in such lack and insecurity. A lot of these people that we're seeing that are writing this legislation, not everybody, but the people who write this kind of stuff. And that's where it's coming from. It comes from a place of feeling like there's a scarcity, a finite amount of good, and they have to hoard it all. And it's like, we don't care.
Yeah, it's power structures. It's what people are socialized into. A lot of times with religion, people feel the need to deconstruct it for a reason. But also to the question about entertainment, it's not just about like, oh, they will she'll make her own Hallmark channel. first of all, it's really expensive to make entertainment other than on TikTok. Anything like
And on Hallmark,
Barbie,
25,000 per picture.
Yeah, it's like anything is like, so the people who
We're going
who
back under the desk.
okay. Nice. The people who control those studios and those companies have like, they don't, they control what gets made. And a good example of this that's happening now is there was a film at, I think it was Cannes, called The Apprentice, which is about Donald Trump's.
Oh, it was a Cannes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was widely, very positively praised, and no one will buy it no studio will buy it to distribute it because they're afraid of making Donald Trump angry.
Right.
And this movie is out there. It could stand to make a lot of money, and
It's a
still
very
people
dark
don't want
film.
to put it out.
Yeah.
Because it apparently allegedly depicts it. What I'm told is that it depicts
some of the
Trump.
violence between him and his ex-wife in an intimacy space. Yeah, we
Yes, you
won't
could
talk
Google
about it too much. Yeah.
if you're unsure
Yeah.
about what we're referring
But
to.
also about the fact that he wasn't really a good businessman, and like Roy Cohn kind of made him the way that he was, and like, I don't know.
So much of like the way we think about things comes from entertainment, and I don't know if we realize that like automatically. And so the way that they will choose to make entertainment, what will get funded, will be content that is aligned with their ideology, and you won't be making content like Barbie or
No,
Call Me by
or
Your
even-
Name.
I mean, it's part of why they want to get rid of TikTok, and we did get that commitment from Kirby after a couple discussions that the NSC is working on mitigating privacy concerns without annihilating this platform. Kirby said at this point he does not see any reason to annihilate any single platform, and they're not pursuing that like ban the way that they were before. But a lot of the thing they were fighting with TikTok is the ability for us to entertain each other and create community and have spaces like this. I mean, right now, me and Sammy are here. It didn't really cost us any money other than our phone and like our plug-in things and like our computer and the internet. It was anybody could do this and come on and talk about Project 2025. There's like thousands of people who came through here today. Meanwhile, the television media is locked up right now on just platforming broadly what's being said at the RNC without any pushback or context. They'll do the same thing at the DNC, in fairness. They will platform it without any pushback or context. And so, they want to shut down these spaces.
Millions of dollars.
Millions. And they want to shut down these spaces because this is where we can kind of like, you can't make people hate their friends and neighbors when they have access to them, right? So we did this rugged individual thing where we won't even borrow a cup of sugar from our neighbor, and we're locking our doors and afraid of everybody. And now they're trying to do that with online spaces too. Like, you can't trust anything except us, and that's scary.
Yeah, it's not, the distrust is a big problem. But I have a question. Someone asks, what time are we going to keep reading tomorrow?
Probably like 8 again, I guess.
I think 8's a good
Is this a good time for everybody?
If this works for everybody, we can do 8. I can, try to get the morning announcements done before, so I can although with the RNC, it's hard. We'll figure it out. Say 8. We'll let you know.
Tomorrow
we'll
for
post
8
about
at
it.
least. And we'll do the next couple promises and we'll see what's up,
And I'll get to previewing the next section and let you know. But
Yeah. Is it a good time for our mod? Shannon, are you available?
wait, we need Shannon.
Shannon is the glue that holds this world together. She's all we have.
Seriously, I don't even want to know what comments.
People are like, do you have a bunch of moderators? I was like, no, I have one. Shannon. She's been with me since day one. It's Shannon or death. That's it.
I want to see behind the scenes of what
I know, we got to
Shannon's
get
doing
Shan to
one
come to
day.
the DNC with us. We'll be in Chicago, so we're not that far.
We
from
will
where you're at.
be
We'll see.
at the DNC. You have a
We
crown.
will.
Okay. I'm
All right,
going to
we
do the
love you
morning
guys.
announcements.
Sammy's got to go work. We will
Buy
see
my
you
book.
later. Buy the book,
Listen
Democracy
to our
in Retrograde.
podcasts.
American Fever Dream, out right now. You can listen to our episode. What did we talk about today? The RNC and NATO and stuff.
We talked about the assassination.
All kinds of all kinds of
Blue
things.
MAGA. or
Also,
not.
yes, what is Blue MAGA? Also, to answer the question that was in here, yes, a man who resided in a homeless encampment was shot and killed in about 2 miles from the RNC. There was not a shooting at the RNC. He was brandishing a knife. It's not to say it was politically motivated. I think the man was troubled, and the police shot him dead, which is, again, horrific, but it wasn't a shooting at the RNC, if that makes sense. Thank
Now
you.
you're a panda.
Now I'm a panda. Okay, so we love you guys. We'll see you again tomorrow night at 8. We'll just do this. We'll hang out.
Let's
Okay,
just
bye.
we'll keep doing it.
Yes.
Let us know what you
Bye.
think.